to Coach Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide.
To me, this is the ultimate team. All these guys bought into everything they needed to do to be the best players that they could be. There's more togetherness on this team than almost any team that we've ever had. And they had to overcome and persevere so much adversity through this season, and they've done it magnificently. And I'm so proud of this group for what they've been able to accomplish and going undefeated and winning the national championship.
Streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the Tide 100.9 app. Here is your host of Off the Edge, Jacob Harrison.
Your man overthrown. Spit out the ball.
Hello there. Good morning. Welcome in to Off the Edge Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide sports. Great day to talk some Alabama football. We'll do it for the next 57 minutes here. Available on the Tide 100.9 app, Apple and Android devices. You can also catch the show on the Apple Podcast as well. Check us out on all social media platforms at Off the Edge 109 for ways to just enjoy more content from the show. Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, that's where the streams live. You can also find us Instagram, TikTok as well at Off the Edge 100. Also want to encourage you, check out Alabama Vintage, man. At AlabamaVTG.com, the online there. Most everything on Instagram at Alabama VTG for 15% off your order.com and listen, when it's going to be Ole Miss, do those commemorative t-shirts dating back. Diving in today, we're gonna have a lot of fun. 205-342-9904. No guest, it's your show. We'll get this thing going, but a lot has been made about, is Ole Miss kind of a little bit overrated because their schedule hasn't been particularly difficult, right? They get Austin Peay, they get Louisville, they get Tulane, and none of those teams are particularly good, even if Tulane, plays up to their competition each and every week. Still, they're kind of just trucking along, right? Like the defense, it's improved for the Rebels, but it's not necessarily, groundbreaking at all. It's still Ole Miss football. They're gonna light you up offensively, and their defense is gonna give up somewhere around 20, 25, probably 30 points, right? So we expect that from this Alabama game. So we're going in and we're saying, well, what are the things that Alabama's gonna have to do to attack their defense and make sure they can score as many points as possible? We're going in thinking, well, what is Ole Miss going to do offensively? Here's what I think Ole Miss is going to do offensively, and it's going to work really, really well. Because when you look back on last year's game, a lot of people tend to forget about this because it was such a high-scoring game. Ole Miss ran the ball at like a 2-to-1 click. They ran the ball like 50 some odd times, and they did that with great success. And it wasn't necessarily the expectation, right? Like I said, Alabama's defense last year, that game was an exception, not the rule. That was a game where Alabama's defense did not play well in nearly any regard. Now, if you do go back, the outside corners, they played an incredible game. A lot of the damage was done straight up the middle of this Alabama defense last year. And I would argue that will be the same case this year as well. Josh Jobe, Jalen Armour-Davis, they're going to do their jobs on the outside. They're not taking on any elite wide receivers. And even if they do, those receivers, when their opportunities come, are going to be on RPOs and inside routes because the weakness of this defense for the Crimson Tide still exists within the middle of the field. And that's where you should be the most concerned, if at all. Henry Toto, Christian Harris, incredible linebackers, right? They've got all the skill in the world. But when it comes to coverage, linebackers will always be at a disadvantage until football's next evolutionary stop, where linebackers are really safeties, and then we've gotten close to that. But I mean, what are you gonna do? You know, like you're a big guy trying to run with little guys, and that's just matchup football. And what Ole Miss did last year was they used their running backs a lot, and they used tight end a lot, and they just gashed the middle of the field. Well, this year they've got more confidence in who their quarterback is, right? They come into this game, there's expectations for Ole Miss to really challenge Alabama. Last year that was not the case. Last year they were able to drive off of the unknown and not being Alabama's biggest challenge, despite by the end of the game and by the end of the season having been that. They were Alabama's biggest challenge last year. And it comes down to Lane Kiffin and his intelligence as a play caller to notice what the defense is presenting to him and being able to attack that. Here's the thing, is with Ole Miss, they're a very calculated offense, right? When you're running RPOs as kind of like your base play, your quarterback has to be intelligent with the football. And if he's not, that can lead to a lot of turnovers, can lead to a lot of penalties, and it can lead to a lot of killed drives. Matt Corral is legitimately one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Now, is he one of the top quarterbacks in college football that can play in elite competition like this? I mean, we've seen that for years, right? Where we've seen Andrew Luck go through and never even sniff a national championship. But there was no denying that when the Stanford Cardinal took the field every single week when Andrew Luck was in college, that he was the best quarterback on the field. Now, Matt Corral's nowhere near Andrew Luck, don't get me wrong, but are you so good, Matt Corral, that you can lead the Rebels to do something special that is out of the ordinary? That remains to be seen. We'll learn a lot about that on Saturday. But his play calling, the play calling that he'll get from his head coach, is certainly going to exploit his strengths and minimize his weaknesses. Any good play caller can automatically do that. But when you're playing a defense like Alabama that has been tested a lot down the middle, Southern Miss did it. Southern Miss attacked the middle of the field, and that's where they found their success. They didn't find a lot of success, but when they found success, it was down the seams. It was to in mismatches, and it was against these linebackers, and it was against DeMarco Helms, who's playing more strong safety than free than I can possibly try to comprehend. But that's where Ole Miss is going to attack. And that's where things are going to get dangerous, because it's exactly the game plan that they went through last year. It's probably just going to be a lot less running the football and more Matt Corral just scanning the middle of the field and 6, 7, 8 yards here and there and making it work and allowing the receivers to make the plays with the ball in their hands. And that's pretty dangerous. That is pretty dangerous. When you look back on Tua Tagovailoa and what Alabama did with those RPO schemes, where they could have just attacked the middle of the field against everybody because their receivers were more athletic than anybody that was down the middle of the field until they got to Clemson. That's pretty much the game plan here for Lane Kiffin and what Ole Miss is going to bring to the table. You look back, first few plays of the game against Louisville, Lane Kiffin, of course, not being the play caller, but RPO after RPO after RPO after RPO. So whatever these linebackers give you, you take what they didn't. They want to come crash down on this run because we ran for like 400 rushing yards last year. Then we're just going to dump a little slant, pick up 7 or 8 yards, and continue to chug along. And when you do that, it makes it very, very difficult to find any sense of rhythm on this defense and ever feel like you're right. Because confidence in the scheme, confidence in the game plan goes a long way with the defense, especially anybody that's off the ball. You know, the confidence to know that, you know, you're dictating to the offense. You are doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're doing your job and you're making an impact on the game. When that's completely taken away from you for no fault of your own, you're always wrong because you're doing your job. It frustrates a defense and it makes it very, very difficult for them to ever find the success that they need to build the confidence throughout the football game. And that's kind of the genius at work of what Lane Kiffin's going to bring to this game. It's kind of the genius of work of a guy like Matt Corral, who has learned from his mistakes last year. If you think Matt Corral is coming in here and throwing 5 interceptions like he did against Arkansas and LSU last year, you're dead wrong. He ain't doing it. He's not doing it. That you don't just randomly one day decide that Matt Corral is the best quarterback in the 2022 NFL draft class. You don't just randomly decide one day that Matt Corral is a Heisman favorite. He does that. He shows you that. And yes, it was against lesser competition, but when you're playing lesser competition, what you have to do is execute. What has Alabama done all year on offense relative to the quarterback position? Despite playing less than stellar competition, except in Florida, Bryce Young has just simply executed. Has he always had the most help around him? Like, say, against Mercer? Maybe not. But Miami, he just executed the play calls through accurate passes, right? It's clear Miami's not a great football team. Miami's not even a good football team. Miami's bad. And Alabama kind of, just did their thing against them, right? Alabama did the same thing against Southern Miss. It just went out and executed. And here's the thing, is Ole Miss isn't bringing a defense that is anywhere close to what Florida had in the swamp. So in turn, if Alabama is just able to execute, and we're going to sit here and we're going to praise Alabama's offense, particularly Bryce Young, then you can't ignore what Matt Corral has done early in the season for Ole Miss. You can't just brush it off and be like, oh, well, he threw all those interceptions last year. That was last year, man. That was last year. This is a whole new system, but a whole new scenario for Matt Corral after going through an entire offseason with Lane Kiffin, continuing to build on his strengths, understand his weaknesses, and go out there and do his thing. That's why he's got 14 touchdowns and no picks. 14 responsible touchdowns. He's only thrown 9. He's got 5 on the ground. And that's why Bryce Young is doing his thing too. 15 touchdowns, 1 pick. That wasn't his fault. Probably should have been touchdown. So you don't just get to kind of cherry pick who's doing good and who's doing, or who's faking it when they're going through similar situations. Alabama has been tested already. And I think that's what gives them the advantage in this football game. Ole Miss has not necessarily been tested. They've had to play scrappy offenses that find ways to get the job done, but they don't have enough talent to keep up with what Ole Miss does offensively. But Ole Miss, they're the number 12 team in the country for a reason, 13, 12, whatever. They've earned that by the eye test. See, what we like to do is we like to play these games on paper a little bit and ignore the eye test. And then when we get to the end of the season, it's all about, what about the eye test? Because everybody's schedules aren't great. You can do that early in the season too. If you see Ole Miss and you see what they're doing from a schematic standpoint, it kind of leads into what they want to do against the what's basically their Super Bowl. Their do or die moment. It all comes down to this. If you don't win, nothing else really matters beyond that anyway. When you look at those sorts of things, Ole Miss has been building up to that game, to this game this week in Bryant-Denny Stadium at 2:30 p.m. Central. And there's no reason to feel overly confident. There's no reason to be scared. There's a reason to feel like this is going to be a very fun football game. And I'm not going to dismiss Matt Corral because he's had an easy schedule. And I'm not going to prop him up because he's performed the way you're expected to perform against an easy schedule either. But you have to respect your opponent. Has that not been the theme throughout the entire year? Is to respect the opponent? I mean, sure, clear and obvious. We're going into the swamp. We got to respect Florida, what they bring to the table, even though their quarterbacks aren't great, or one quarterback's hurt and the other quarterback's not great. So to respect the opponent. Mercer, we didn't respect the opponent. Look how it went. Southern Miss respected the opponent, executed the game plan. Everybody's hunky dory. We respect Ole Miss because of what happened last year, but we're not respecting Ole Miss because of what's happened so far this year. And I think that's a mistake. Now, does fan perception impact a football game? No. But does it help you understand what's going on in the game and be ready for what's going to happen in the football game? Because I've talked to a lot of fans off the air for Ryan Fowler's show, and it's kind of mixed up a little bit. But those that are confident, I don't know, man. It's wishful thinking that Ole Miss isn't going to score 30 points in this game. Now, Alabama could score 60 in response to that. But just because Ole Miss is going to do their thing doesn't mean that Alabama's bad at anything. It means Alabama has a weakness, and it's the middle of their defense, and Ole Miss is going to exploit it. That's what's so incredible about the RPO offense. And what's so deadly to a defense where their weakness is the middle of the field. It's either run it up the middle or throw it over the middle. What's a defense supposed to do? Like I said, you can't be right because you're always wrong because of the way the offense is dictating. And when you're the defense and you can't dictate to the offense, it crushes a lot of spirit in the game plan. So as we kind of move forward throughout the week, just saying, it's going to be really frustrating when Matt Corral is just dumping off 7-8 yard passes in RPOs, and Jordan Battle's having to come up and make 15 tackles in the football game just to keep anything from breaking deep. Because at the same time, I think Ole Miss knows how Alabama is going to try to attack them on their defense, because their defense, their entire defense, is their entire weakness. And Alabama's got a number of ways to do it. And we'll discuss those next here on Off the Edge. You're more than welcome to call into the show, 205-342-9904. We'll continue the conversation next. Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports.
Dell's semi-annual sale is the perfect opportunity for a significant business upgrade. Save up to 45% on Dell computers built for business with Windows 10 Pro. Plus, enjoy special pricing on Dell docks, monitors, servers, and more, all with easy financing options through Dell Financial Services. Succeed anywhere with Windows 10 Pro. Speak to a Dell Technologies advisor today to find the right tech for your business with fast, free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
What's better than a new car or SUV? It's only one set of vehicles. A Townsend Nissan CPO certified pre-owned vehicle. They help you make an intelligent vehicle selection. And yes, they have all the rewards with a nationwide factory warranty up to 100,000 miles or 7 years. And best of all, free roadside assistance for up to 100,000 miles or 7 years. Now that's peace of mind nationwide. Plus, super low finance rates up to 72 months. And right now, your current vehicle is worth so much more. Don't wait. Shop your local family in the car business. Townsend Nissan, located right here in Titletown.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partially sunny and warm today. The chance of a few isolated showers through the evening hours. The high today 87, tonight's low 68. For tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine with widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. The high at 86. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 80 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
We aren't going anywhere. Off the Edge is available in the podcast center on Tide100.9.com.
It's just like ESPN, man. Every day, come in, trash talking my Steelers. I know they're bad. Give me a break, man. Give me a little bit of a break. Hey, the SEC coaches teleconference is going on right now, and Saban is given an encouraging update about Brian Robinson.
it's kind of what you expect. You know, he's been dealing with the rib injury. He was held out precautionarily against Southern Miss. He was listed as day-to-day on Monday. Hopeful that he'd be prepared for the game. And I think he will be prepared for the game. I think he's going to be a big factor in how Alabama wants to attack this game. If we recall last year, right, first of all, Brian Robinson himself, like 10 carries, 70 some odd yards, and a touchdown. Najee Harris himself had 5 touchdowns. That's a lot. I mean, that's really like, that's a lot of touchdowns. So why wouldn't you continue to do the same thing? Ole Miss has struggled to stop the run in nearly every capacity, and we've already discussed the fact that they don't have a great schedule to look back on and say, oh, okay, well, you know, it happens, right? Giving up 206 rushing yards per game, and you're blowing folks out, right? You're blowing folks out, or excuse me, that's last year. Thanks, sportsreference.com, for giving me last year's stats. It's really impressive. 136 rushing yards, I should say. That's still a lot. That's still a lot when you're facing teams that their intention is not to run the ball anymore for the whole second half of the game. It's to throw the football to try to catch up. So they can look at the fact that, you know, they're playing so well offensively, but when are you going to get to the point where you're stopping folks? They can kind of balance it out and say, well, we're running the ball for almost 300 yards a game too, so you can, you know, put that in your pipe and smoke it. But when it comes to Alabama, what Alabama wants to do, Alabama's not running the ball a whole lot now. They're pretty balanced against Southern Miss because you just want to kind of get out of there. You know, you take the air out of the ball in the second quarter, or excuse me, the second half, and you kind of do your thing. But at the same time, Brian Robinson missed a game, and he leads the team with 208 rushing yards. That is less than ideal. You know, Roydell Williams got all of his rushing yards last week because, you know, he fumbled the ball against Miami, lost a lot of opportunities there, right? So when you're looking at, okay, well, Ole Miss doesn't do a great job stopping the run. They run the ball pretty well. That's what they did last year. What we did last year, well, we just used Najee Harris like crazy. Do we have a Najee Harris on this team? Well, no, we don't. We don't. Now, I would like to say extend the running game into the passing game. Use Jace McClellan. I've been screaming that for a while now. But if you're not going to do that, you're continuing to throw the football, then do it in a way that is detrimental to what Ole Miss is capable of doing. Now, Ole Miss doesn't have a great pass rush. Ole Miss doesn't have great linebackers. I mean, they've got better linebackers. They've got a better pass rush. They've got better secondaries, but it's still not enough to really stop Alabama. So what do you do, right? Because you can't go scoring like crazy. I mean, you can get up 21-0 in the first quarter and see if there's a repeat of what happened in Florida, and odds are that would not be the case. You could sustain a lead at that point. That would be ideal. I mean, it you know, certainly one way to win the football game, but at the same time, when you know what Lane Kiffin wants to do, and Lane Kiffin's going to find a way to be explosive and control the ball at the same time based off of what he tried to do last year. He's not going to come with the same exact game plan. As I said, this one's probably going to be a little bit more RPO heavy. Alabama wants to play ball control. You should. It would be understandable. If you don't, I get it. But you're not running the football well enough against inferior competition. Now, look, last week you rushed for over 200 yards. Southern Miss. You want to point out Ole Miss's schedule? Look at Alabama's too. The point is that when you look at what McClellan has done and what Roydell Williams has done, it kind of stops there. But both of those guys, a great chunk of their yardage comes from just a couple of plays. There's not a lot of consistency in their running. Now, Brian Robinson, very consistent runner, about 5 yards a pop, not a lot of big plays. You know he's not going to get big plays. He's not fast enough for it. But can you lean on him for ball control? Can you go full Derrick Henry and give him the ball 30 times in this football game? No. No, you cannot. You're going to have to throw the football. Now, if you can't play ball control with your running backs, then who can you play ball control with? Well, your slot receivers and your tight ends. Well, slot receiver has been very inconsistent. JoJo Earl didn't even have a catch last week, and we all know how Slade Bolden has been playing. I've been saying it all week. If Nick Saban's going to come to the podium one more time and say they did something offensively that we were not prepared for, but can't in turn do something that makes Lane Kiffin go to the podium after this game and say, well, they did some things we weren't prepared for. That's a pretty colossal failure, especially if Alabama loses the football game. Now, if Alabama wins, whatever. You can use these tight ends to do something incredibly, incredibly special. Because if you think that the middle of the field is a weakness for Alabama, who has better football players in the middle of the field than Ole Miss does, what would you call Ole Miss's what would you call the middle of the field for Ole Miss? What's worse than a weakness? It's a liability at that point in comparison to the talent that Alabama has. Now they're going to play up to Alabama because they've got something to prove. They're going to do their thing, right? Football, isn't all about who's got the higher Madden ratings, but give me more Cameron Latu and Jalil Billingsley. Give me those two guys down the middle, ins and outs, frustrating these linebackers. Give me that. You'll get your hot shots to Jameson Williams down the field. You'll get big plays out of John things throughout the course of a 60-minute ball game. Just do it, and you're going to call those plays, and they're going to go your way because you've got Bryce Young, who's doing his job. Because he's fully healthy, he's the best player on the team right now. And I mean, offensively, without a doubt, the best player on the team. So when you're going into this game and you know that that's Lane Kiffin's effort is to present something for your defense that you haven't seen all year, that you haven't practiced for all year, do the same thing to them. Dictate the football game. And like I said, 10 years ago, New England Patriots wrote the book on 12 personnel, wrote the book on using two tight ends to just decimate everybody. Gronkowski had a career year, set the touchdown record for tight ends. Hernandez had a career year, though his career was short. Do the same things, because the offensive coordinator in those days for the Patriots was Bill O'Brien. You wrote the book. Use it. Jalil Billingsley's out of the doghouse. There's no excuses anymore. You're not playing the inferior competition. You're not playing against teams that don't need to see this. It's time to let the dogs loose and utilize your best offensive skill players. And like I said, run the football. Please run the football. Please have ball control. It's a great strategy to win this football game. But when you're looking for the more chunky type plays in the passing game and not just efficiency ball, these tight ends can do damage too. And we know this, right? They've combined for 6 touchdowns. Now, one of Billingsley's was a fumble recovery in the end zone, but that just kind of speaks to, his intelligence on the football field. He's there. He's aware, right? He was also in the end zone when John Mechie was running into it. He knows what he's doing out there. And we all remember Miami. I mean, he stiff-armed 3 guys into the shadow realm. He's good, and he knows what he's doing. Jalil Billingsley knows how to get hidden behind defenses and make plays too. And we all are aware of how athletic he is and what a dynamic force he can be against these defenses. Utilize them together, because it stresses the hell out of these defenses, man. Nobody can cover tight ends in this age of football. Nobody does it well. when you have great tight ends and there's only so many to go around, nobody can cover them. The secret to a great fantasy team, draft Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller, right? It'll solve all your problems. So when you've got Billingsley and you've got Latu and you know what they're capable of, and it works the same way as, because what was Hernandez? He was more of an H-back tight end, slot tight end. And what's Gronkowski always been? An inline, run you into the turf, blocking traditional tight end. And he's the greatest of all time to do it. So I'm not saying Latu is Gronk, but Latu's an inline tight end and Billingsley's an H-back tight end, slot receiver guy. It makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. It has to be incorporated into this offense because you're not getting enough production out of the wide receivers. John Mechie, he's the number one receiver on this team. He's got 240 yards on 24 receptions. It's 10 yards per catch. That is not good enough for the number one wide receiver. 1 touchdown. I understand he fumbled right at the end zone last week. Not enough. Not enough. And I know he's getting extra attention paid to him because he's a great receiver. Look, Julio Jones went through the same thing, okay? But you didn't really have the options outside of Julio to, in the passing game to really circumvent the situation. You do now. And you can continue to find Jameson Williams underneath and then let him loose down the field, and you'll find success there because he's such a dynamic player. Don't sleep on JMO. I done told you. But that's the expectation because that's what you've done all year. This is an Alabama team that's been evolving since day one. And I'm not saying that if Alabama does not do this, they'll lose the football game. Not at all. This is just strictly the way that I would approach the situation because based off of the talent that I have and the weaknesses that Ole Miss has, right? If I were, a coach. I'm not. It's my opinion. It's what you paid for it. Like Ryan Fowler says, this show's completely free. Lucky you. But still, some things are just a little bit clearly obvious. And the deception that can go throughout a season and allow you to evolve and give off the aura of evolution in your offense and growth in your offense, it gives you, by the end of the year, when you're in the postseason, a gazillion things for your opponents to look at. You want an identity as an offense. You want an identity as a defense. You want an identity as a football team, but you cannot become predictable. And you cannot rely on the same exact things each and every week unless you're just better than everybody else. Well, here's a news flash. Alabama's not just better than everybody else this year. I know that hurts. I know that might make you mad. But the top of college football is a little bit more even. And when Alabama looks down this schedule, I think they're, especially the fans, are going to be a little bit more concerned as the season goes on, even if maybe it's not super stressful, but Texas A&M, they're going to do their thing, right? They're going to make an effort. They're going to challenge you a little bit. It's probably not going to be close by the end of it. Mississippi State, Tennessee, LSU, New Mexico State, those are all bad football teams, though. Arkansas, though. What do you want Arkansas to be prepared for? Because what's Arkansas really good at? Running the football. What's Arkansas really good at defensively? Stopping the run. Give them something to stress about, too. Give Auburn something to stress about. If you think Auburn's going to be the same football team today as they are on November 27th, you're wildly mistaken. That team goes through hills and valleys more than any program in the country. And they'll get up for Alabama. That's their Super Bowl, and somehow they've found ways to win it multiple times over the past 10 years. Then you get to the postseason. You get to Georgia. You think you're just going to line up and just pound it through Georgia? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But when you've got the dynamic playmakers and you find ways to implement them throughout the season and continue to give more for these defenses to look at as the season goes along, you find that those defenses have to prepare for a lot more, and that stretches them thin, and that allows you to add in even more things. Alabama hasn't had to be super dynamic because either they've got more talent or the game plan worked. They've got more talent, and the game plan is going to work against Ole Miss because their defense just is what it is. The problem is that you still have to outscore Ole Miss. Ole Miss is still going to do their thing offensively against the best defense in college football. That's how good Lane Kiffin is. That's how good Matt Corral is. Bring something special to the table. Bring Jaleel Billingsley. Bring Cameron Latu. Bring the 12 personnel. And light these suckers up. Have some fun doing it too. We'll take a break. Off the Edge, Tide 100.9. You're home for Alabama Sports.
Dell's semi-annual sale is the perfect opportunity for a significant business upgrade. Save up to 45% on Dell computers built for business with Windows 10 Pro. Plus, enjoy special pricing on Dell docks, monitors, servers, and more, all with easy financing options through Dell Financial Services. Succeed anywhere with Windows 10 Pro. Speak to a Dell Technologies advisor today to find the right tech for your business with fast, free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Don't miss a play at the Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Your front row seat to all the action. Place bets on all professional and most college sports at the counter, kiosk, or on your phone. Then catch the game on one of our 20 big screens from the comfort of the newly remodeled Timeout Lounge. Plus, the PRR Sports app gives you access to live, in-play sports betting. Sportsbook at Pearl River Resort. Be more than a fan. Be a player. Must be 21.
What's better than a new car or SUV? It's only one set of vehicles, a Townsend Nissan CPO certified pre-owned vehicle. They help you make an intelligent vehicle selection. And yes, they have all the rewards with a nationwide factory warranty up to 100,000 miles or 7 years. And best of all, free roadside assistance for up to 100,000 miles or 7 years. Now that's peace of mind nationwide. Plus, super low finance rates up to 72 months. And right now, your current vehicle is worth so much more. Don't wait. Shop your local family in the car business, Townsend Nissan, located right here in Titletown.
But we have a truck leaving with a big order on Tuesday.
Tina's floor manager retired, leaving her tortilla factory flat out.
What do you mean she's on a silent retreat?
She must fill the role and all those orders.
She's gonna oversee production.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Follow Off the Edge on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube for live streams and instant analysis. Off the Edge with Jacob Harrison continues.
We're back on Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama Crimson Tide Sports. Want to encourage you, you can always join the comments in the live streams at Off the Edge 109, all platforms, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter at JHarrisonOTE, and that's what Gabe did and asked me the question, is Billingsley plus Latu better than last year's Pitts with Kyle Pitts, Florida, third overall pick in the NFL draft, Kyle Pitts. Incredible tight end, worthy of a Heisman Trophy, more so than his quarterback, Kyle Pitts. Right now, no, clearly not. I mean, you just the stats alone, 8 plus 6, that's 14 catches, a little under 150 yards, 6 touchdowns. One of those technically doesn't even count. No. Can it be? Should it be? Abso-freaking-lutely. Because Billingsley and Latu, Latu on his own is a better blocker than Pitts, but Billingsley is also a better blocker than Pitts, despite playing the tight end position in a similar fashion. Is either of those guys as dynamic down the field as Kyle Pitts, though? No. Do either of those guys have the catch radius of Kyle Pitts? No. Neither of those guys are as fast as Kyle Pitts. Neither of them run routes as good as Kyle Pitts. But combined, the effort, the impact on a football game. Listen, Gronk and Hernandez
scared the poop out of the entire NFL 10 years ago, and nobody's been able to replicate it since. This is the best opportunity we've seen since. And it is certainly the first opportunity in college football where you've really had that chance outside of what Iowa had a few years ago. But Iowa didn't have a dynamic enough quarterback to take advantage of the situation there. Well, who was that? It was Fant and another guy. It was after Kittle. But Iowa's a tight end factory, by the way. Regardless, it should be. Latu and Billingsley should be more dynamic than even what Kyle Pitts brought because they're two players. And they're two players that play the most difficult position to defend for any defense. Because it doesn't listen, Alabama has got two 6'2", 225-pound linebackers that run 4.5 40s, and neither of them are great in coverage. And they're two of the best athlete linebackers in the entire country. I mean, Will Anderson's not bad in coverage. I'll leave it at that. But it's very difficult for these linebackers, for these safeties, for these defensive backs of any kind to be able to match up with the tight ends. If you're fast enough, you're not big enough. If you're big enough, you're not fast enough. And if you're a linebacker, you just don't have the coverage skills necessary. Despite the way that I know these linebackers have been trained in 7-on-7s and the trials and tribulations that they've been through. Because listen, 10 years ago when I was playing high school ball, we were doing the same thing. None of us were good at it then, and we still ain't good at it now. Tight ends bring so much value. And when you've got two great ones, and Alabama does, that's going to trump one every day of the week. Now, it's a little bit more difficult to just outright say yes because Pitts is an all-timer. Like, he's a legendary football player. College football player. You know, so that does make it a little bit more difficult to just straight out say yes, but it should be. It absolutely should be. And if you're able to utilize them correctly, and listen, Bryce loves throwing to these tight ends. It's clear and obvious by the fact that, you know, they have so many receptions, so many targets, and so many touchdowns. No two combinations of wide receivers stack up to as many touchdowns as these tight ends. I should say a lot, shouldn't it? I mean, heck, you have to combine John Mechie and Jameson Williams just to get to as many touchdowns as Cameron Latu's got. Again, one of Latu's is a technicality, strictly. But you see my point. These guys are dynamic. And if you combine them into one tight end and combine their stats, which is basically the effective way that you would, you know, go about doing it based off of the talent that they're bringing, you know, they'd have the most, they'd be ahead of Jameson Williams in catches, behind him in yards, but have way more receptions than the entire football team. It's pretty impressive. And Billingsley's not even hardly out there up until recently. It shows how dynamic he is and how much was expected out of him coming into the season. But this at least gave us the blueprint because we saw what Latu was good at. And we saw that Latu is a very, very good traditional tight end. We already knew what Jaleel Billingsley was, and now you compare those together, you have something super, super special. I do want to say, though, to not forget last year's game, but also to kind of put it out of your mind a little bit. This will be a different game. And like I said, when it comes to Ole Miss, it doesn't matter that their schedule has been so easy. I know like that became the undoing of Auburn. They played a really weak schedule, didn't really prepare them to go to Penn State. Penn State's not the number 4 team in the country, but you know, Auburn certainly helped them make them look like that. But at the same time, Auburn was still in that football game, and I know Auburn, you know, is where they're at right now. Ole Miss is a way better football team than Auburn. You can't look at what happened to Auburn and be like, no, that's what's going to happen to Ole Miss. No. Each week is different. And Ole Miss I'm not saying I'm concerned. I'm not saying I'm scared. I'm not trying to fearmonger anybody out there. I'm trying to just let you know we're in for a really, really tough, fun football game. I still think Alabama's going to win. I don't know if they're going to cover. I'm just saying that what Ole Miss is bringing to the table, it shouldn't be glossed over. There should be no fear from last year, but you should still just respect the opponent. And I think you'll enjoy the game a little bit more that way. Because Alabama still got the best defense in the country. I challenge you. I challenge you to find a better defense in this country. You're just not going to find it. You want to give me Penn State, Wisconsin? Who cares? Their offenses can't do it. It's not good. It doesn't help the team to have those defenses out there. And besides, the talent is still not the same. So I'm going based off of talent. I don't care about stats. Okay. First of all, if you threw Wisconsin into the SEC, that defense would still not be better than Alabama's. If you threw Penn State into the SEC, that defense would still not be better than Alabama's. Because I promise you, Alabama ain't going to give up the same things that Auburn got on Penn State. It's just a reality of it. So things are a little bit different. But Alabama's defense does still have weakness. Lane Kiffin will find a way to take advantage of it. That's what he does. We'll look at some national matchups and tell you about a guy who used to wear crimson, who's now wearing a lot of different colors. He's having a pretty incredible season. Talk about it next. Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports.
High prices don't get you a great network. A great network gets you a great network. It's why Total Wireless runs on the largest, most dependable network, now with 5G. And for a limited time, we're doubling your high-speed data on our $35 unlimited plan from 5 gigs to 10. So you can double your binging, your scrolling, your everything. Total Wireless. Do amazing. Available at Total Wireless stores. Capable device and SIM required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. Offer ends 12/31/2021. First 10 gigs at high speed, then 2G. Terms and conditions at totalwireless.com/terms.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish
is pretty bad. So we're using Babbel.
Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said, now we speak Spanish.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
Tuscaloosa Tire and Service. They've got the big brands you know and trust. Goodyear, Firestone, Bridgestone, Cooper, and they can finance for you as well. When you need routine maintenance and alignment, a tune-up, whatever it is, belts, hoses, just basic stuff, or when you don't know what's wrong with your car, truck, or SUV, make it Tuscaloosa Tire and Service. They're dependable, they're trustworthy. That's why they've lasted for over 36 years. Skyland Boulevard, McFarland Boulevard East in Northport on Lurleen Wallace Boulevard. Check out the website, TuscaloosaTireandService.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Partially sunny and warm today. The chance of a few isolated showers through the evening hours. The high today 87, tonight's low 68. For tomorrow, a mixture of clouds and sunshine with widely scattered showers and thunderstorms. The high at 86. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 80 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
You're listening to Off the Edge on Tide 100.9.
Back to close it down, Off the Edge, Tide 100.9, your home for Alabama sports. Just how it's supposed to work. I'm going to talk Georgia, Arkansas, and it's on the TV here on ESPN. KJ Jefferson. Man, he is a dog. He's a dog, and he's got Treylon Burks out there, too, to toss the ball up to. I'll be honest, that 18.5 point spread for Georgia, that's a little redonkulous. Arkansas, I like Arkansas, man. I don't know. I don't know if Arkansas can beat Georgia, to be honest with you. I sure would like to see it. I'd love to see the chaos. I told Jeff yesterday when he called in,
I would love to see the chaos that would ensue if Arkansas is able to beat Georgia and Kentucky's able to beat Florida. Now, that being said, I don't know how realistic that is. We love chaos in college football, but it's hard to come by. Arkansas has already done their damage, right? Taking down Texas A&M, labeling the whole state as West Arkansas. Like, you love to see it. That's what we need more. We need more Kansas states, right? Big Kansas now, Arkansas, West Arkansas. Georgia brings a lot defensively. And that's what's scaring folks off, right? Is because Arkansas, what they like to do is they like to bully folks and they like to run the football. KJ Jefferson, as good as he's playing, he's not Peyton Manning back there. He's not lighting you up. Treylon Burks, as great as he is, he's one guy, right? Well, all I'm saying is don't be surprised. All I'm saying is don't be surprised if Arkansas has got that thing down to the wire. Because, newsflash, Arkansas's got a great defense, and Georgia ain't got diddly squat on offense. We like to look at Georgia, and we're always like, oh, their defense, right? And offense, we just kind of they'll get carried. They'll still do their thing, right? And then we get to the postseason, it's like, oh, well, Georgia sucks. Why do we fall for this same trap every year? Yes, Arkansas has already been through the ringer, and yes, the ringer does not end. They've got the toughest schedule in college football, but don't be surprised if they find a way to either get this thing as close as possible or to just outright win the football game. They've got that kind of gumption in them, and a lot of people would like to see it. Because we've seen a lot of interesting names in the top 5 right now. Looking at the AP poll is a mess, by the way. I hate preseason polls, and I hate the influence that preseason polls put on regular season polls, because I want anybody to look me in the eye and tell me that Clemson's a top 25 team, because you're a liar. You're a liar. Clemson can't score on New Mexico State, man. Like, they're bad. They're horrendous. Top 25. Y'all just want to be nice. I ain't here to be nice. We're here to play football. We're looking at this top 5, right? We got Alabama, we got Georgia. Yes, clearly the best 2 teams in college football. Oregon's up there. They're playing a lot of fun stuff. I don't know if their passing game is dynamic enough to really win a championship. Penn State's going to lose eventually. I'm not even slightly worried about Penn State. Not feeling it from the Nittany Lions at all. If you were really that great, you'd have crushed Auburn. I'm not feeling it. Iowa is an interesting situation, though. Iowa's first real test comes this week when they've got Maryland and Talia Tagovailoa, who's throwing for like 77% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns. He's getting into the Heisman conversation. Talia Tagovailoa is lighting the world on fire right now. He is playing incredible football. And maybe not the great competition to start the season, but this is the real true test. This is a really fun game up in the Big Ten where Maryland can throw off the entire conference and really honestly give Ohio State another chance. But in the same vein, that conference is completely open, and Talia Tagovailoa has got a chance to bring the Terps to 5-0. They haven't even been above 500 since they joined the conference in 2014. Their first season, they went 7-6. Since then, they've been under 500. Nothing but losing seasons. And now they got Talia, and they've got Mike Locksley, and they're running the thing. They got a real opportunity. That game's on Friday night, by the way. So we're going to have that on in here when we're doing Friday Night Lights with Kerry Clark and myself. And I'm going to be cheering on Talia Tagovailoa. But you continue to look down. You know who's creeping? Cincinnati is creeping. They got Notre Dame this week. Cincinnati wins that game. They're automatically in the top 5, and they ain't moving. They ain't going to move. Cincinnati can make the playoffs, y'all. This has been a lot more fun college football season than I thought we were going to get. I'll be honest with you. I thought we were going to just get the most generic. We were going to get Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. And thank everything I was wrong. Like the header says, I'm often wrong, but always confident. Right? We got this. You can yawn if you want to. That's fun. Bama versus Cincy in round 1. At least we would know. At least we would know. It's been a lot of fun today breaking it down, analyzing Alabama versus Ole Miss. We're just a few short days away from that contest, and we'll have a lot of fun covering it. I can't wait to be Bryant-Denny Stadium again to break it all down. Jay Barker Show is coming up next. Ryan Fowler taking from 2 to 6. Then we'll hear from Nick Saban as well as Ty tonight as well. Y'all enjoy your Wednesday, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Off the Edge.
Can't tell you how proud I am of our players, our team.
Join us every Monday from 8 to 10 and Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and the Tide 100.9